In the previous video, we looked at a Bollinger Band RSI based EA. We went through a few backtests, we explained the strategy, and then we went through the entire coding, explaining step by step how to code that EA. Today, what we will look to do is add 5 more features to that EA. And also, I will run through all of the features in the input tab because it's creating a little bit of confusion somehow. So we'll run through all of the features so that you guys can understand which feature does what and how best to apply it. So with no more shenanigans, let's start. We went through the full coding of EA step by step with explanation in the previous video here. So if you have missed it, you might want to start there. Today, we will look to add 5 more features to the EA, which will be adding a trailing stop loss once the price has moved in our favorable direction a little. Then the max number of trades per pair and also max number of trades which are allowed for the entire account so that the EA doesn't run away with too many trades. And then thanks to one of my friends, Forex, and I'll link his channel down below so you can go check that out as well. We'll add 2 more features, which is to only trade in the direction where the swap is positive, and also to close all of the trades once a defined profit target is hit. So if the EA ends up opening 3 or 4 trades, then we look to set a fixed dollar amount profit or a percentage of the account balance as profit target so that once that target is reached, we close all of the positions. So these are the 5 features that we will look at, and we'll go through all of the coding, explaining every step in detail, like always. So here in MetaTrader, we have our RSI Bollinger reversal, which we wrote last time, but with additional features this time around as well. So we'll go through the coding later, but for now, let's look at the inputs first. So the first input here is the unique ID. Then it's a multi-currency EA because normally we will run it on 1 hour chart or 4 hour chart. So the number of trades are going to be very few. So you want to apply it on maybe 10, 12 currency pairs. And these currency pairs are going to be separated by comma. Then what's the time frame for the EA? Now, if you go to the lower time frame, you're going to end up with too many trades. Now, we do have some filters that we will go through when we're applying the EA on a lower time frame. But when you're applying it on a higher time frame, the number of trades are not going to be that many. So you might not want to use the filters. Then we come to the trade setting. So when does the EA take a trade? Now we're defining the moving average of the Bollinger Band as 200. You can change it. Then the way that I like to apply it is I want to take the trade when the price has hit the 4 standard deviation of the Bollinger Band up for a sell trade, or 4 standard deviation for the lower band. And then on top of that, we also then say, it's like, look, hitting the upper or the lower Bollinger Band at 4 standard deviation, that's not enough. We also want to make sure that the RSI value is above 80 in case we're selling. So it is in the overbought territory, or it is lower than 20 for a buy position because we want it to be oversold as well. So standard deviation tells you that the price has moved in one direction quite massively. But then RSI also tells you or substantiates it by saying that the prices have moved into the overbought or oversold territories. Now, I don't believe in the overbought and oversold territories, but at least it's a confluence of 2 indicators. So it gives us a little bit more chances of success. Then comes the maximum number of trades per pair. This is the feature that we're going to add to the EA today. Here, if you put 0, that will mean unlimited. But if you say total number of trades allowed are 3, then on GBP, JPY, the total number of trades that can be open at the same time are going to be 3. Same for GBP CAD, same for GBP CHF. But God forbid, if all of these currency pairs end up with 3 positions each, that's going to be 33 positions at the same time. So you might also want to say, well, I want to have 8 positions max for the account as well. So we do want to have some sort of a limit on how many trades do we want to have at one time so as not to have a runaway equity drawdown. Then we're going to add up these 2 functions as my friend from the comment section has suggested, which are take trades only in the direction where the swap is positive. Let's say the sell has a negative swap and a buy has a positive swap. Then we're only going to be interested in taking a buy position. We're not going to be interested in taking a sell position. And this is more applicable to when you are applying it on a longer time frame. Then not only you are in a position to hold the position longer, but you also benefit from the fact that the swap is working your way. And then the last one, again from my friend Forex, to exit the trade if a certain percentage of the account balance is reached. So for example, if you have an account size of $1,000 and then you say 5%, so as soon as the total profit on that pair becomes greater than 5% of your account balance, or 4% or 3%, whatever you define here, we manually close. Not by manually, I mean we don't let it hit the TP. We ask the EA to close all the positions on that symbol. So this section was more about the rules that define when we take the trade. And then we come to the section of trade management, where the first one is you have two options. You can either have fixed lot size. If you define the lot size to be fixed, then you input it here. If you define the type of lot size to be lot per 1K capital, then you have the choice to say here, what is the trade size per 1,000 capital value? So let's say you have $1,000 in the account and you say 0.02, then the EA will trade at 0.02 until it tips over to 2,000, and then it will start taking 0.04. And it's going to tip over in a rounded fashion. So 1.4 thousand euros might still be 0.01 trade per capital lot, while 1.6 might become 0.02. And then comes the TP setting. And here we say that, look, we took the trade on 4 standard deviation, but we want our TP to trail the opposite band. So if we are in a buy, which meant that we took the lower 4 standard deviation Bollinger Band as our buy trade, but then our TP is going to trail the upper band, but on a 2 standard deviation or a 3 standard deviation, or you can keep it to 4 standard deviation. Now, the balance of that basically lies in if you are trailing it on 2 standard deviation, there are more chances of the TP being hit versus when it's trailing at 4. And secondly, if you have the TP set as 4 standard deviation, then there are more chances of many trades opening up because the chances of the price going the other way and hitting the Bollinger Band on the opposite side at 4 standard deviation are less than hitting the Bollinger Band of 2 standard deviation on the other side. And then we could not set the stop loss immediately on taking the trade, because if we set it on the Bollinger Band, it's going to be way too close to where we're opening up the trade. So if we are opening up the trade at 4 standard deviation, we can't put the stop loss at 4 standard deviation as well. You might want to do it on 5, but that's not going to be too far away. So what we do is we let the price come back to at least the baseline. So when it has come back at least to the main line, that's when we will start trailing the stop loss. So let's suppose we took a buy trade because the price touched the lower band with 4 standard deviation. Then the price went back up and it hit the main line. And then we can set the stop loss now either to the 4 standard deviation, 3 standard deviation, 2 standard deviation of the same side of the Bollinger Band. So on the lower side for a buy trade. Now I'm keeping it at 3 because I do want a little bit of a distance. I want some breathing space between where my price is and where my stop loss is. And then this option is the number of bars before the next trade can be taken. That's very important because let's say if the price comes down and hits the lower Bollinger Band, so we took a buy trade, but then it moves a little bit back up, but then it comes back again and hits the 4 standard deviation. Do we want to take a trade again just in 1 hour? No. So we're going to let a certain number of bars lapse between the last time that we took the trade and the next time. So on a 1 hour chart, saying 100 candles or 100 bars will mean at least 100 hours have passed since the last time on that currency pair the last trade was taken. So we disregard the fact that there is already a trade position open and we take the trade again as if the last trade didn't happen. So we're interested in taking the trades as many times as that conditions are fulfilled, regardless of the fact if the previous positions are open. And this is where coming back to the lot size per 1,000 capital becomes very, very important. If you're applying 15 different currencies, then you might want to keep it very low. If you're applying it to only 3 or 4 pairs, then you might want to crank it up a little bit because the number of trades are not going to be that many. I hope that is clear. And then comes our 2 filters, which are the moving average filter and the Ichimoku filter. Now this EA takes very few trades because the chances of hitting the 4 standard deviation Bollinger Band is quite rare. So you might end up applying a EA on a chart and then you see that for the first 2 days or 3 days, there is 0 trade at all. And that doesn't mean that the EA isn't working. That just simply means that the conditions haven't been met on any of the currency pairs. And this is where these filters, they come in more handy when you're applying it to a 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute chart. Because then what you don't want to have is too many trades and too many trades opening up at the same time. And this is where you can then go. It's like, okay, well, filter-wise, we only want to trade in the general direction of the trend. And then we say, even though we are applying the EA on a 5-minute chart, but we want to see on a 4-hour chart or a 1-day chart which way the trend is, whether the fast moving average is above the slow moving average or is below. If it is above, then it might be an uptrend. If it is below, then it might be a downtrend. And then you only want to trade in the general direction of that trend. So then you select this as true, and then you say maybe 4-hour chart in case you're going for a 5-minute scalping. And then you say, okay, well, what's the moving average period? What is the fast moving average period? whether it's exponential, median, or whatever. And then the last one is the Ichimoku, and that's the one that I use more whenever I'm in the mood for scalping. It works exactly the same way as the moving average in logic, but now you have a lot of choices, because now you can define the trend as Tenkan Sen line versus Kijun Sen line, price versus Tenkun Sen line, price versus Kijun Sen line, price versus the cloud. Many different possibilities. The one that I like more is either the price is above Kijun Sen or the Tenkan Sen is above Kijun Sen. So when the price is above Kijun Sen, then we say it's an uptrend and we only want to have buy trades. So the EA is going to discard any signals for a sell trade. Same, you can go, well, price is above the cloud. If the price is above the cloud, then we're in an uptrend. If the price is below the cloud, then we're in a downtrend. And I'm only putting here the conditions for buy, and the opposite will be applicable to sell. So if we say price above cloud, that's the condition for buy. So then price below the cloud is going to be the condition for sell. So these are the filters that you can also apply. Now coming back to the 5 features that we're going to add today to the EA, we didn't have them before. So we didn't have this, we didn't have this, we didn't have this, we didn't have that. And we didn't have the stop loss setting. So these are the 5 that we're going to code today. So let's get on with the coding by going to the IDE.
Before we continue to the coding, just a very small notification. I have added on my website a section for our members, which is basically a place where we can all come together and then discuss all of these topics, and I can help you guys a lot more there. I have started a Discord channel in which I'm answering all of the questions people have. And on a weekly basis, we have video calls between the members, which I'm also posting back into YouTube. And I've started another channel by the name NSFX Live, which you can search by typing NSFX Live within the YouTube. All the discussions that we have on a weekly basis, I will be uploading them here, so you can all follow it. You don't need to join the members area. But if you do want to participate, this is where you can join the members section.
So these are the codes that we had coded in the last video, and we called it Bollinger-RSI reversal. We can save as, and let's call it Bollinger Band reversal with additional features. We start at the top, and because we're going to be creating a stop loss as well, so we start by creating another CI band, and let's call it SL Bollinger Band as against the TP Bollinger Band. Then we go down to our trade settings, and here we add these additional features where we are creating 4 variables. So all of them are input variables. The first one is an integer, so it can store the value of numbers, and then we say max trades symbol, so that's the name of the variable, which we're going to use to store the number of trades on a pair, on a symbol that are allowed, the maximum one. And 0 is going to mean unlimited, and I'm setting the default position as 0, so unless the user changes it, it's unlimited. Same goes for max trade account. This is the one that we're going to use to say what are the total number of open trades allowed for the entire EA. We're again setting it to 0, which is going to be unlimited. Then we're going to be creating a function for swap, whether or not it's positive. So let's create a variable, which is going to be a bool variable. So it's going to return the value of either true or false. And here we're going to store the value of whether the swap is positive or it's negative. And then exiting all of the open position on a certain symbol, if a profit target is reached, we create a buy exit percentage variable where the user can say what percentage of the account balance he wants to set as a target for the trades on a specific symbol. So let's start with 5. And then down below here, where we have the TP Bollinger standard deviation, we create another additional one, which is the SL Bollinger standard deviation. And for now, we set it to 3, but the user can change it. So these are the changes that we're going to make to the variables. And then for now, we don't make any changes to the EA at all in any of the functions. And we go down to the bottom to create our 2 new functions. Thanks to my friend Pawn Forex. Go check out his website as well. So the first one is going to be, is the swap positive? And we're going to create it as a string because we're going to send back the value of whether it is or it is not. And we're going to send it. You can also create it as a bool function if you want to. But I'm creating it as a string function. So is swap positive, and we're going to send to this function the symbol, like the same way that we did it last time for the multi-currency. So once the EA is looping through all of the currencies, whichever currency it is on, that currency we're going to send to this function, and then we're going to look whether or not the swap on that currency pair is positive. We start by getting the information on swap long and swap short by using the symbol info double function, sending it the value of the symbol and asking for what is the swap value of long positions and short positions. And then it's a very simple, if the swap long is greater than 0, then return buy is allowed. And if the swap short is greater than 0, then return sell allow. Then the next function we're going to create is the function of exiting the positions in profit. And we're again going to send it the symbol value so that when the EA is looping through all of the symbols, whatever symbol it is currently on, that's the symbol we're sending here. So we're only checking for one symbol at a time. Once again, thanks to my friend Pawn Forex, we start by creating two variables. One is the total profit, and we start with a value of 0. And then for this function, we're also going to need the account balance because we need to check whether the profit is more than a certain percentage of the account balance. So we get the account balance by using the account info double function and asking for the account balance. And then we loop through all of the positions which are currently open. So we say for integer I, which is equal to position total minus 1, because if there are 3 positions, we want to loop through 2, 1, and 0. Because the for function loops, it starts from a 0 value. So if there are 3 positions open, you're going to be checking 0, 1, and 2 index. And this is why we start with a position total minus 1. And then as long as I remains greater than or equal to 0, by decreasing the value of I every time by 1. So first select the position by index. So whichever is the I. So if there are 3 positions, you start with 2. Because that will be position total minus 1. 3 minus 1 equals 2. So get the position, select by index 2, the position, and then check what's the symbol of that position by saying position info.symbol and check it against what symbol we are sending here. And we also check that the position info magic number equals to input magic number. So in case if somebody has applied more than 1 EA on the same account, we want to make sure that the symbol equals our symbol and the position's magic number also equals our magic number. So we know that this trade has been placed by our EA. And then if that is true, then basically take this total profit, which is starting at 0, and just add to it. And this is the sign plus equals to, meaning add to it whatever is this position's profit. So whatever is the absolute profit value on this position, add it to this initial starting position of 0. And then loop through again and again. So if you find more than one position which has our symbol and our magic number, then basically add up all of the positions profit so that you end up with the total profit on that symbol. Once we have that profit, then we can run through the loop again by saying that if the total profit here is bigger than the account balance multiplied by whatever percentage the user has defined, divided by 100 because it's a percentage. If it is bigger than that, so then we are in a position where the profit has exceeded what the user has set as the limit for the profits where we exit the trades. Then loop through the positions again, select them by index, get their ticket number for every position on every loop. And then if the position symbol equals our and position info.magic equals input magic number, that tells us that it is on the same symbol and this position has our input magic number, close that position. Which is basically there are 3 positions open on USD JPY and USD JPY total profit has exceeded this value. Then we want to close all of the USD JPY positions currently open. And that we do by going through the loop of all of the positions. And then if it is the symbol USD JPY and it is our input magic number, which means that this is our EA which has placed the trade, then just simply close that position. So if there are 3 positions open, the EA will iterate through all of the positions, say 9 positions, out of which 3 are USD JPY. It will close one, it will close the second, and then it will close the last one. Then the third function we're going to create is open trade symbol. And this is going to return the value of how many positions are open on a particular symbol. So we're going to create it as an integer. We start by creating an integer variable of open trades. Let's call it, and we assign it the value of 0 for a start. And then we loop through all of the positions exactly the same way by selecting by index and then checking whether the position info magic number is our magic number and the symbol is the symbol that we are sending to this function. Then in that case, it is a trade on that symbol and it is a trade placed by our EA. So in that case, increase the value of the open trades, which we have set to 0 at the beginning of the function, increase it by 1. And this plus plus basically means plus 1. So run through the loop for as many positions which are open. If the position is on that symbol with our EA number, then increase the number by 1. So at the end, we're going to end up with the number of the total number of trades which are currently open on that symbol, and then simply return the open trades back. So now that we have created these 3 functions, we can go back up to the run symbol function at the very beginning. And here we're going to say that firstly, we don't want to start the trailing if there is no position open. So let's check that if the positions total is greater than 0, so there is an open position, then only we want to run the trail stop loss. And then if the buy exit percentage is not equal to 0, because if it is 0, that means the user doesn't want to use it. So if the buy exit percentage selected by the user is not 0, that means it's effective. Then run the exit positions profit function that we have just created by sending it whatever is the symbol currently coming from the onTick function through that iteration of the array size of currencies. And then I can close this loop. So this then takes care of our exiting the positions on a certain profit level once it's reached. So now we can go down to where we are checking before opening up a trade that all of the conditions that we have in the EA are satisfied. And here we're going to add two more. The first one is the max number of trades for symbol. So we're going to check if it is equals to 0. That means that there are unlimited number of trades allowed. Then in that case, yes, go ahead and place the trade. Or if by checking through open trade symbol, the function that we have just created here, how many trades are open, and then checking it against the maximum number of trades symbol that the user can define. So if the user has defined 3 as maximum number of trades, then only if the open trade symbol returns a value less than that, so the current number of open position on that symbol are less than the max number of trades allowed on that symbol, then only you can go ahead and open up a trade. So we are adding this condition. And in the exact same fashion, we add the condition for the max trade for the account. And there again, we say if it is 0, because in that case, it's unlimited number allowed, or if the positions total for the entire account is less than max trade accounts. So the variable where the user is specifying how many trades are allowed on the total account. If it is less than that, the total number of positions currently open, then you can also proceed and open up the buy. So we are adding these two conditions, both for the buy trades and for the sell trades. So in this way, now we have also added the feature on max trade allowed on the symbol and max number of trades allowed on the account. Then we go back up here, and here for the positive swap feature, we add another condition and we say if swap hunter is on, so the variable that we created here, as true or false for the user to select whether or not he wants to hunt positive swaps. So if the swap hunter was on, so we are checking, and the value that we received is not buy allowed, that means it's not allowed, then in that case return exit the function, don't run any of the codes below. And then we can use exactly the same logic here and say that if the swap hunter on is true, so we are hunting for a positive swap, and the swap positive does not return the value of sell allow, then also return exit the function, do not run these codes. So this is how we take care of the positive swap as well. And then the last feature that we are adding today is the trailing stop loss. So we come down to the trail stop loss function now. And here we're going to start by adding a double variable for a stop loss as well. So when we are looping through all of the positions, that the function that we wrote last time. So where we were getting the TP information, now we're getting the SL information as well. So by using the position info variable and getting the stop loss value of this position. And then we go ahead and get the ask value. So we need either the bid or the ask. It's not going to create that much of a difference. What we want is to have the current market price. So we get the ask value by using the symbol info double function, sending it the symbol value and asking for whatever is the ask value on the symbol. And then we create a full if loop, because only if the SL bold deviation is not equal to 0. Because what we said here in the additional features that SL bold standard deviation, 0 means no stop loss. So if it is 0, then we don't really need to do anything on the stop loss because the user does not want to have a stop loss. So we create an if then else analysis by saying if it is not 0, that means the user wants a stop loss. But we're only going to apply the stop loss once the price has touched the main line. So now we need to check that. But before checking that, we first need to create a new CI band for a stop loss Bollinger, because it might be different. The user might be taking the trade on 4 standard deviation, taking the TP on 3 standard deviation, and setting up the stop loss on 2.5 standard deviation. So we need to create a separate stop loss Bollinger band. So we create that by saying it's a new CI band, and then slbol.create, exactly the same way as we did in the last video. We provided the values, and then we refresh the value of the stop loss Bollinger Band. And then we switch through whatever is the currently selected position type. So if it's a position type buy, and then we say if a stop loss is not zero, because that will mean that this stop loss coming from the position already had a stop loss. This is why it's not zero, which means that we had already applied a stop loss. So we need to continue applying the stop loss. So the user has selected the stop loss and it needs to be continued. So if the stop loss is not zero, or if the ask price is above the Bollinger Band baseline, because we are applying this to a buy type, and the buy type was taken at the lower Bollinger Band, and once the price has come back to the main line, up until now, the stop loss is going to be zero. So we check that if the ask is above the Bollinger Band, then we apply the stop loss by saying that the stop loss equals to SL Boll lower band. So once again, logically, when on the lower Bollinger Band a buy trade is taken, there is no stop loss because we can't apply the stop loss then. When it comes up to the main line, that's when this side of the OR analysis is going to be true. The ask has come above the baseline of the Bollinger Band, but the stop loss is still zero. And this is why we're saying or, either or. So if this is not true, at least this is true, then we have already checked that the user has applied the standard Boll deviation. He does want to apply a stop loss. And in that case, we set the stop loss. But the other condition can be that the ask or the price can again dip below the main line. But in that case, we will know because the stop loss is not zero. This means that the user wanted to apply it. And we did apply it in the past because the price came above the main line. And now, even though it has gone below the main line, this condition is going to be true. In that case, we still want to continue trailing it on the lower Bollinger Band. The opposite for the sell. So if the stop loss is not equal to zero, and if ask is less than the Bollinger Band baseline, the main line, if the price has come below it, then we want to apply the stop loss. And once the stop loss has been applied, it will have a value. So every time else, even if the price has gone above again, this value is going to be not zero. So in that case, in both cases, we will change the value of the stop loss to the upper Bollinger Band. This we do not need to change, but then here we were only changing the TP value. But now we need to also change the stop loss value. So we're going to have to rewrite this portion of the function. So we will select these three lines and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to replace it by this. We start by checking whether the position symbol is our symbol and the position magic number is our magic number. So we know it's ours and on the right symbol. But now we have to check between the two. So if a stop loss is not equal to zero, then we're going to modify the position by sending the ticket number and sending the stop loss and TP both. But if it is zero, we say else, which basically means that it's not zero is not true. So it is zero. So if it is zero, then only change the TP value. And this is how we can separate whether the user wants to apply the stop loss or doesn't want to apply the stop loss. So these are the changes that we make to our trailing stop loss function. So I'll pause here. So this is the beginning of the trailing stop loss function. So you can see where the parentheses are. So you can write it exactly the way that you see it here. And then the later part of the function here. Because there are so many parentheses opening and closing, here you might want to pause the video and make sure that the parentheses and everything is correctly in place, otherwise you're going to get an error. So let's go ahead and compile. And we have one error. Let's look at that error. And here the error is saying that this is not returning a value because we did need to return something. Because if this condition is true, we are returning buy allow. If this condition is true, we are returning sell allow. But what if both of these conditions are not true? So the EA is asking us what happens then. So let's say in that case, return error. Let's compile it again. And I don't have any errors. So this concludes the additional coding required for the additional feature that we wanted to cover in this video. Any additional features that you guys can think of, put it in the comment section. If there are 4 or 5 more additional features which are quite good, then I'll probably come back again and make another video on how to integrate those into this EA as well. For those of you who downloaded this from the store, I will be uploading the new file into the store, so you can go back with the same link and download it again, and it will be revised and you will have the new files. Many thanks again to Pawn Forex for suggesting 2 of the features that we covered today. So until next time guys, stay safe, trade safe.